Hey, welcome to my channel today. Today I'm going to try to post a video on my 2006 Lancer Evolution MR. Finally managed to get it all put together. I get it to run. And this car's been sitting for about 2.5 years. I expected a little bit of trouble. Not quite what I ended up with, but a little bit of trouble with just parts having sitting idle, fuel sitting in them for so long. I want to walk around real quick, explain a little bit about this particular car. This is a MR Edition with the SE package. If you look down right at that lower spoiler there, use my foot because it's easier to point. Right here, you see that little detail here, okay? That's the large lower lip. That was the SE option. It only comes on the SE or the MR if you order it. It has to be added. So this car came with all available options. The only one that it doesn't have, which it couldn't have, is the trunk bar. There is a trunk brace that comes in the SE, and it mounts on the very back of the trunk. There's two little, I don't know if you want to call them captivated nuts, but there's nuts right in there, and this bar bolts right to the back. And it's only available to Evolution SE owners. You have to have a VIN number to even find it in the parts catalog. If you know what looking up these parts in the Mitsubishi system is like, it's pretty tough on the Evo. The parts drawings look like they were drawn by you know, somebody that doesn't know anything about drafting whatsoever. So this is a fully featured car. Part of the rest of the front kit is called the Zero Lift Kit, which is an under tray that directs air to the brake coolers. This car has brake coolers for the front brakes. And the last option is back here on the spoiler, which is a lip right here. That's part of the other option. So when you get a larger front spoiler, you get more downforce up front, and this balances out the downforce. Now there's another stage that's beyond this, which is the Rally Art. I believe it's called the Rally Art spoiler. It's even a longer front spoiler, and oh, got my finger over the camera lens there. So even a longer front spoiler gives more downforce than the SE spoiler, and that's where you see the JDM rear bumpers with the diffusers on the back that create more downforce. So now that would be the ultimate factory downforce package for this particular car. It's very effective, much more than most Evo owners actually believe it is. Everything they've done to this car is very, very well thought out, and if you go to make adjustments to it, you better be very sure of what you're doing, because you're probably going to make it worse much easier than making it better. One of the biggest mistakes people make is changing the stance on the road. Now, I've lowered my car, but I lowered the front and I lowered the rear equally, because it's very important for the geometry to keep everything in proper locations. So now, if you notice, my rear tire is pretty low, but originally it was pretty close. And if we go over to the front tire has quite a bit of gap in comparison. Well, that's because of the Rally. You need more room up in the front. That's the part that's really moving more than the rear. And the car still has a rake, which is standard. It's a little bit tough to see in this video, but you can look at the spacing between the side skirts, front and rear, and the car is at a rake, and it always has been. All right. Okay, let's move around. I got a charge speed vented carbon fiber hood. The finish is not doing so good these days. The hood's still in great shape. The real carbon fiber hoods are very, very functional. They're unbelievably strong compared to the aluminum hoods, which literally fold up just like tinfoil. And in this case, I ended up with a lot more airflow coming through my engine compartment, which really makes a big difference on this car. They're very, very hot under the hood. And I used to see violent heat haze coming out of my vent with the original hood. It was even hard to see past. And it's not quite so bad anymore. You'll start to see a little bit of heat haze if you're doing a lot of city driving and not pushing a lot of air through it. But for the most part, that's almost all completely gone. All right. Let's get inside here. Oh, I didn't bring the remote. I got to do it the old-fashioned way. Sorry about this video not being the greatest. It's just that I don't have any editing facilities, and my daughter's going to school for this, and she's going to start helping me out a little bit with editing videos together. So I'm working on it right now. I'm getting a lot of O2 sensor codes. I've seen 134, 132, 133, 138. Changed a bunch of O2 sensors. I'm in right now. I got the ECU out right here. Probably can't see much, but there it is right there. And I'm just checking wiring continuities, and the fact that I'm having codes on both O2 sensors, and the car's running great in open loop. And as soon as it gets a closed loop and the sensors start going haywire, it starts going rich. And the next time you start it up and you don't clear the fuel trims, it just gets worse from there. I think I got a bad ECU. Either going to get another one used or just have this one repaired. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's, I don't know, just every problem points to it. The factory manual actually, pretty much on all O2 sensor trouble codes, has the possibility of a bad ECU, because I think somehow that circuit that's driving the heater and the one that's reading is very sensitive. And I overvoltaged my car jump starting it a couple of years ago, and I wasn't driving it at the time. I had it in the driveway, and that was probably the time that it happened. The only time I can think of that something like that would have happened. And I'm a CNC repairman, and I've had my fair share of overvoltage woes with electronics. Seems to be my weakness sometimes. But that will be worked on as soon as possible. Just going to show around a little bit. I was a daily driver. It's not a show car by any means. This is my second set of floor mats. You can tell it's been a daily driver. See how they look. And but otherwise, it's not in the worst condition. The steering wheel is really not in bad shape. It's got a little bit of wear. Used to wear gloves all the time because of that knob there getting real hot. You can see it in the sun. It's in Florida right now. That thing's probably got ready to brand my hand. Dashboard, everything is still not looking too bad. Not bad at all. This car here has the Tanabe T's and the Pro 7 suspension. No longer available, actually been obsolete for a long time. I bought one originally in 08, and it broke some springs, so I was wanting to change springs when I did my timing belt and rebuilt my transmission, and I couldn't get them all apart. The corrosion on the aluminum lock nuts, I had to cut the lock nuts off, and all the hardware to replace all the lock nuts was pretty expensive. And James at Tanabe, I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning him. He's been great. I love their products. They're very, very into what they do, and they're very happy to help you in any way they can. And he had a set that they had for testing that had never been used, sitting in the shop with all the pieces, and he sold it to me for very little money. About the same money I was going to have to pay for all the parts. So I ended up putting all new coilovers and coil springs on it. And this time I bought Hyperco. I bought basically the same 12 kilograms, 10 kilograms springs. Their springs are sold in inches, pounds per inch, but it ends up being pretty close to the same thing. Might be a smidgen higher. The Hyperco springs, I'm not sure if I can actually get you to see them. The suspension is very hidden up in here. They do seem to be a little bit more controlled than the Tanabe springs. Yeah, you can't see too much.